Black moves bishop to d5, attacking his opponent's bishop. White cannot take bishop with his bishop on d5 because the black's rook can deliver a checkmate by moving it to h3. So white promotes his pawn to queen by moving it to a8. Black can easily take one of the opponent's queen with the rook on a8, but instead he gives check by moving his rook to h3. White avoids it by taking rook with bishop on h3. Black then finishes the game by moving his pawn to g3, that checkmates.
Welcome to the Daily Puzzle. We're commanding the black pieces in today's puzzle, and we seem to find ourselves in a desperate-looking situation. White already boasts an extra queen compared to our rook. We're down a pawn, and oh, one of White's extra pawns is ready to promote on the very next move. Our knight on e8 is simply a spectator, and it's also hanging. Well, we could say the same is true about White's knight on g8, but White will gladly exchange a knight for a newly promoted queen, so we cannot be blinded by materialism. Well, before we throw in the towel, let us not forget the most important factor in any chess position, king safety. Well, Black's king enjoys incredible activity from the f2 square, restricting its rival on h2. Well, notice that our king is sheltered by White's own pawns on dark squares, preventing White's queen from harassing our king. This tale of two kings suggests that time is of the essence and we need to energetically attack the vulnerable enemy monarch at all costs. Well, dreaming of a crushing attack is nice, but White isn't exactly ready to resign based upon these positional descriptions. As always, we preach the good word of forcing moves first, which leads us to consider our only check in the position, advancing our pawn forward. It's important to visualize this line in our mind's eye before committing to this pawn lunge. We may hope that our opponent is kind enough to visit Blundertown with king h1, warmly inviting our rook to end the game with rook a1, forcing the bishop to block the check, when we end the game with rook takes f1, delivering mate. But before we commit to this move, as happy as we may feel if White plays king h1, what if White is also interested in winning the game and decides to play the more resilient king h3? The king does feel rather exposed on this square as well, but there simply isn't a way to exploit this weakness. Swinging our rook to the 6th rank doesn't actually threaten mate as White's knight is lounging on g8, conveniently defending the h6 square. So in this case, White can simply promote the pawn into a queen. And if Black's light-squared bishop tries to challenge the enemy king with bishop d1, once again White's king calmly meditates on h3 while promoting the pawn. Although we can attack the enemy king with bishop g4, and although our pawn is able to control the h2 escape square, unfortunately it cannot also defend backwards. So White's king simply slides to the h4 square, dodging our optimistic attacking efforts when White is simply up a decisive amount of material. It was a good idea to first consider the forcing g3, but unfortunately it simply takes us down the all too familiar road to nowhere. Well, with that being said, the g-pawn actually does an excellent job restricting the enemy king from where it currently stands. In a previous daily puzzle video, I mentioned the positional concept that pawns do an excellent job pointing to squares where they may happily support a piece. In this case, the g4 pawn points to f3, as well as the h3 square. Notice that our rook x-rays the h3 square, and without a bishop on g2, this would actually be mate. Okay, well, fair enough, but there's two bishops currently standing in our way of realizing this dream. Now that we realize that we need to move our bishop to clear the 3rd rank for our rook, while also trying to confront the critical guard of this square, how exactly can we achieve both of those aims with a single move? By asking this question, you're on your way to solving today's daily puzzle with the stunning bishop d5, confronting the enemy bishop, revealing the rook's 3rd rank agenda, while simultaneously disconnecting any potential support for White's bishop down the long light square diagonal. It is true White is ready to promote a pawn, and Black's bishop does appear to be hanging on d5, but there simply isn't a defense against this piercing arrow slicing through the light squares. If White decides to accept this not-so-generous gift of a bishop, the light-squared bishop leaves behind the critical h3 square, so our rook cruises across the 3rd rank, mating the enemy king. Since our bishop is immune from capture, White tests our understanding by inviting another queen into the action by promoting the pawn. Although we'd love to remove the guard of the critical h3 square by capturing the bishop, white's newly promoted queen snaps us back to reality after capturing our bishop, attacking our king in the process, completely refuting our attack. And if we decide to capture white's queen, this does allow white the opportunity to blunder by capturing with the bishop, allowing mate in 1. But white can wisely decide to capture with the queen, defending the bishop, which is still defending h3. So after rook takes a8 and bishop takes a8, we simply wake up in a dead loss position, because if we advance our pawn forward after king h3, the enemy king and bishop do an excellent job restricting our advance past pawn, so we're simply down a piece with nothing to show for it. Promoting the pawn into a second queen is an excellent attempt to distract us from our main goal, attacking the enemy king at all costs. White's dynamic queen duo can certainly feel intimidating, especially as the newly promoted queen does an excellent job defending the bishop on g2, the critical defender of the h3 square. Although this appears to be a really annoying setback, the bishop on d5 is not only attacking the bishop, hoping to remove the key defender of the h3 square. We should also notice that our bishop is seeing through its counterpart on g2, x-raying a critical escape square for the enemy king on h1. So rather than trying to remove the bishop from defending the h3 square, what if we could actually attract that bishop to h3? In this case, this would open up the long light square diagonal, allowing us to deliver mate with g3. Once again, we're able to prioritize forcing moves first, and we can quickly reject g3 as once again this allows white to take advantage of the space left behind, h3. But by considering another forcing move, we discover an incredible opportunity after rook h3, attacking the enemy king, so this is an offer white cannot refuse, forcing white to capture our rook. We attract the enemy bishop to the h3 square, blocking a potential escape square for the king while revealing the bishop's control over the long light square diagonal. This means that white's king is completely paralyzed, and white's queens weep as their power pales in comparison to a single brave pawn, marching forward with g3. Combined with the attacking efforts of our king and light squared bishop, this pawn delivers a beautiful mate.